So President Biden has announced a brand new plan that will help millions of people across the country. Republicans are meeting with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer to finally reach a deal on the next social spending bill. Folks, we have a ton of good news about the fourth stimulus check and social security benefits. You want to be sure to continue watching this video to never miss out on the most important stimulus information. So here is some breaking news. Record high prices for homes are pushed by record low levels, and relief seems far-fetched in the short term. To combat this, the Biden-Harris administration has announced a plan to ease the burden of housing costs over time. This will be done by boosting the supply of quality housing in every community. The Housing Supply Action Plan will use current and future legislative and administrative actions that will help close America's housing supply shortfall in 5 years. Starting with the creation and preservation of hundreds of thousands of affordable housing units within the next 3 years. But everybody, the plan is to be used in conjunction with other policies, like rental assistance or down payment assistance. And closing that gap will mean more affordable rents and more attainable homeownership for people in every community. The White House has officially stated the plan will help renters who are struggling with high rental costs, with a particular focus on building and preserving rental housing for low and moderate income families. The plan's policies are to boost supply are an important element of bringing homeownership within reach for Americans who cannot find an affordable home because there are too few homes available in their communities. The plan will also help reduce price pressures in the economy. The new data has been released. Overall, only 2 in 10 adults say the US is heading in the right direction or the economy is good, both down from about 3 in 10 a month earlier. Those drops were concentrated among Democrats, with just 33% the president's party saying the country is headed in the right direction. That's down 50% from April. Of particular concern, for Biden ahead of the midterm elections, his approval rating among Democrats stands at 73%, a substantial drop since earlier in his presidency. In polls conducted in 2021, Biden's approval rating among Democrats has never dropped below 82%. Senate Democrats don't want President Biden to make a move on canceling student loan debt. At least until they get one last chance to push him to go as big as possible. Chuck Schumer, as well as Elizabeth Warren and Raphael Warnock, communicated to the White House that they want Biden to hold tight on any executive action until they can press him one last time. According to people familiar with the matter, the 3 senators have already met this week to plot student loan strategy. The lawmakers are seeking a meeting with Biden as soon as he will do it. The student loan fight is a key friction point between Senate Democrats and Biden. Schumer and Warren, as well as Raphael Warnock, are pressing Biden to cancel as much as $50,000 in student loan debt for borrowers, but Biden is considering much smaller relief. The progressive wing of the party believes big debt relief will energize voters, though centrist Democrats generally prefer a more measured approach. Warnock himself could benefit as he prepares to face voters this fall. And Biden publicly rolled out $50,000 in cancellations last month, but said he's considering canceling some student loan debt relief.
Inflation. You could have temporary stagflation, and if geopolitics are involved, that would give you the plausible scenario where we have high prices but a crashing economy. But that sort of thing can never last. And now we're getting confirmation. This morning we learned that demand for gasoline has just hit the lowest level since 2013, ex the pandemic year 2020. That's notable. Why is it notable? Prices at the pump are up 50% year over year. At a certain point, it changes the way people behave and they stop doing the things they were doing with their cars. We're hitting that right now. We just saw pending home sales fall off a cliff, down 16% in the Northeast from March to April. From a seasonality perspective, that sounds backwards. That doesn't make any sense. Why are they worse in April than March? Very simple. Mortgage rates at 5.25% versus 3.1% in February. That'll do it. So you're starting to see that everywhere, right? You're starting to see the Dollar Generals and the Dollar Trees of the world say, hey, all of a sudden we have all these new customers. I wonder where they came from. We're starting to see Macy's talk about people buying clothing again as though they might actually have to show up for work. These things are what the Fed has been waiting for. The conflict in Russia and Ukraine is what put this off. This would have been happening already. So I think it's been really tough to separate out what's temporary because of China and Russia and lockdowns and wars, and what's the actual inflation story on the ground. And I think the market is sniffing out that the stagflation thing was never really going to be a permanent condition. And so now the question is, can the Fed really turn the U.S. consumer on and off like a video game? Meaning, can we really engineer this soft landing and not have the consumer go full-blown into defensive mode, recession mindset? I don't know. It's never happened before. We'll see. But that's really what the market is trying to figure out now.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. And first, I want to thank everyone who's here. Someone who was just a stalwart leader on this issue for years, with her persistence, her intelligence, and her passion. This you can say for sure it wouldn't have happened if Kirsten Gillibrand hadn't taken the lead. I want to thank my colleague Senator Graham. He really stepped up to the plate and understood how important this was, and as he said, convinced businesses that this is good for business as well. And that's why we're able to move this amazing legislation by a voice vote, which meant no one was opposed to it. And in part, that's good credit to Lindsey Graham and to Joni Ernst, who helped so much on this legislation as well. And of course, I want to thank Gretchen Carlson. She did an amazing, amazing thing. And as I mentioned to her, when something bad happens to you, very bad, the human instinct is to curse the darkness. But instead, she lit a candle. And it was her courage that brought us here today. So thank you very much, Gretchen. It is just so angering, it just confoundly angering to realize that people, mainly women, but some men too, who were abused, harassed sexually, were forced to shut up, not tell anyone about it, and not seek justice. That is almost medieval. But that's what was happening until today, because so many people, when they signed employment contracts, were forced into compulsory arbitration on this issue. We may have different views on compulsory arbitration on other issues, but on this issue, how could you tell a woman or man who is harassed, who is abused, you can't seek any public redress, you have to be quiet about it, you have to be handcuffed, and whatever it is. What's muzzled? Yeah, what's the thing they put? And muzzled, thank you, that you couldn't go forward. The great news is that'll never happen. And even better news, which a lot of people don't realize is in this bill, even the existing clauses that people have signed decades ago are no longer enforceable. So people who are harassed will get their rights and have their own choice and their own decisions to make as to whether